I don't remember the exact moment the shift began. That's the thing about real betrayal. It never comes kicking down the door. It slips in quiet, casual, wearing yesterday's smile. At least, that's how it felt with her. With Amanda, we had been married 8 years. I was a mid-level operations guy at a mid-sized logistics company in Chicago, the kind of job that keeps the lights on and the wine glass half full. She worked in marketing, but not just anywhere. She worked for him. Ethan Colburn, our CO, charismatic, sharp jaw, silver hair that looked like it came with a yacht. I met Ethan only a few times during my climb through the lower ranks. He wasn't the kind of boss you ran into unless you were high enough up the food chain to share oxygen. Amanda, of course, knew him well. She was on the communications team, and by team, I mean she spent her days curating his public image like a brand manager for a celebrity. His voice, his quotes, his damn Christmas card tone. Looking back now, the signs were there. But you never look back when you're still in it. You don't check the health of a bridge you're driving across every day. Not until it collapses. It started with dinners she claimed were work-related. Late meetings. Colburn needs something by morning, she'd say, and I'd nod, used to the endless race of deliverables and deadlines. When you marry a professional woman in a high-pressure job, you expect a certain amount of detachment. What I didn't expect was the silence. The Amanda I knew used to tell me things. Trivial things. Irritating office gossip. Her hatred of the copy machine. Now, she came home smelling like Ethan's office, that sterile, too clean cologne, the kind that screams power and polish. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be that guy. The insecure husband. The jealous cliché. So I smiled, kissed her cheek, did the dishes. And every night, I watched her retreat to the bedroom with her laptop and headphones, typing messages I wasn't invited to read. The fracture widened slowly. Vacations were postponed. Her birthday came and went with a half-hearted dinner. I bought her earrings. She gave me a distracted thank you and said, "They're beautiful," like she was reading off a teleprompter. Then came the night I came home early. I'd left work at noon. A splitting headache, the kind that crawls behind your eyes and makes light feel like punishment. Amanda wasn't expecting me. She was supposed to be in a brand strategy session, but she wasn't. Her car was in the garage. The door was unlocked. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I heard her voice upstairs. Not panicked. Not surprised. Just intimate. I didn't go all the way up. I didn't need to. Her laugh floated down the stairs, followed by Ethan's voice, unmistakable, smug and syrupy. He called her Mandy. Nobody else called her that. I left, quietly, like a ghost. That's the part that still pisses me off. Not that I didn't confront her, but that I tiptoed out of my own home like I was an intruder. That night, I slept in a cheap motel outside Schaumburg. I stared at the ceiling for 6 hours, thinking of all the times I told myself everything was fine. Of course it wasn't. I just didn't want to know. And that's when something shifted. Not rage. Not grief. Something colder. A clarity I hadn't felt in years. I went to work the next morning. Same building. Same coffee. Same cubicle walls. But now I watched. I paid attention. I took notes. This wasn't going to be a scene. There'd be no screaming, no broken plates, no begging for answers. Amanda and Ethan had taken something from me, so I would take something from them. But not now. First, I had to disappear, not literally, but mentally, emotionally. I had to become predictable, forgettable. I had to become invisible. Only then could I start planning their downfall. Becoming invisible isn't as hard as it sounds. Most people are so wrapped in their own worlds they won't notice a man vanishing one layer at a time. You just stop volunteering stories. You stop laughing too loudly in the break room. You stop showing ambition. You give people exactly what they expect from you. No more, no less. That's what I did. I let myself blend in. I became background noise. While Amanda and Ethan were busy being the stars of their own little executive soap opera, I was learning the rules of the board. There's a particular kind of silence in corporate offices, the hush of strategic planning, of people carefully managing optics. I started using it. I memorized who whispered and who listened, who deferred to power and who secretly hated it. I noted who owed favors, who bragged when drunk, and who CC'd themselves on every email just in case. I became friends with the IT guy. I didn't need passwords, not yet, just patterns, schedules, how often Ethan's office printer jammed, who orders dry cleaning, what lunch orders were sent to the 15th floor 3 times a week. But this wasn't just about spying. That's amateur hour. This was chess. And I needed leverage, not dirt, value. So I started building something they wouldn't see coming, a quiet little side project. The company had a failing logistics platform, underfunded, underpromoted, mostly ignored by leadership, but I knew it had potential. I saw what it could be. So I put in hours after hours, nights at my desk, while Ethan and Amanda thought I was nursing a bruised ego. I taught myself things I should have learned years ago. Coding, forecasting models, strategic pitching. I started going to industry meetups again, not the flashy ones, the scrappy ones, the ones where the real hungry people go. That's where I met Maya. She was smart, lethal smart, the kind of person who smiled like she already knew where your secrets were buried. We clicked instantly. I told her just enough about the company's logistics issues to get her interested, not enough to get me fired. She asked if I had a plan. Not yet, I told her, but I've got a blueprint. She leaned back and smiled. Then let's draw it. We worked in coffee shops, basements, her friend's startup loft in Logan Square. It started small, a demo, a pitch deck, a potential beta client she knew in Kansas City. Within 3 months, we had something that looked, felt, and moved like a real product, something our company could have had, but never bothered to build. All the while, I played the role. Boring, dependable me. Just another ops guy who smiled too much and brought donuts on Fridays. Amanda barely noticed. And when she did, it was to say I looked tired. You should take better care of yourself, she said one night with concerned tone that made me want to scream. I nodded and thanked her like a stranger. Meanwhile, Maya and I were quietly prepping a pitch. Not for our company. For others. And that's when the universe tossed me a gift wrapped in chaos. A major client backed out of a multi-million-dollar deal with our company, citing system inefficiencies. Ethan was furious. Amanda was stuck in damage control. The board started sniffing for change. So I wrote a memo, a full proposal. Clean, professional, anonymous. I sent it to the board's private feedback inbox using a master address with my blueprint attached. I didn't ask for credit. I didn't need it. 2 weeks later, an internal audit was launched. 3 VPs were reshuffled. Ethan had to explain why the logistics department had fallen behind. And then came the kicker. The board wanted to explore external innovations. They wanted third-party pitches. Maya and I had been waiting for this exact language. We submitted under a new LLC. She fronted the brand. I handled the back end. Our pitch made it to the final round. Ethan had to sit through it. Amanda was there, too, clipboard in hand, smiling politely. Not once did she recognize the work. My voice never appeared. My name never touched a slide. But the moment they announced our project as a chosen solution, I saw something shift in Amanda's eyes. Recognition. She didn't say anything. She just blinked, like a glitch in her reality. I smiled, because now the board was going to bring us in not just a product. Us. They wanted integration, a partnership, and soon they would want new leadership. Amanda didn't ask me about the pitch. Not that day, not that week, but something changed. She started watching me again, little glances when she thought I wasn't paying attention, like she was trying to place a face she used to know in a new, unfamiliar context. I didn't give her anything. The board approved the integration, and with it came an invitation to join the project steering committee. Maya was the official representative. I was just her lead engineer. That title suited me fine. It kept me close enough to the action, but low enough to stay beneath Ethan's radar. At first, he barely acknowledged us. Typical. He was still operating under the illusion that this was a temporary arrangement, a bump in the road he could smooth out with enough boardroom charm and outdated war stories. But the numbers didn't lie. Within 2 months, our platform increased operational efficiency by 26%. Customer satisfaction scores ticked upward. Even the most cynical VPs started asking questions Ethan didn't have answers for. So he pivoted like all good survivors do. He started pretending we were his idea. In meetings, he referred to us as the new muscle behind our logistics reimagining. He made sure the board knew he was fully supportive of our rollout. Amanda played along. She even approached me one afternoon in the glass hallway outside the executive wing. "You're doing good work," she said, voice neutral, eyes calculating. "That new model you guys built, it's tight." "Thanks," I replied. She hesitated. "Maya says she relies on you more than anyone else. Says you basically wrote the engine from scratch." I smiled slightly. Maya's kind. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more, then thought better of it. The silence between us stretched long enough to become awkward. Finally, She nodded and walked off, her heels echoing like punctuation marks. That's when I knew she suspected. Not the whole truth, maybe, but enough to feel the floor shifting beneath her. It was time to accelerate. Maya and I had planned for this moment. While Ethan scrambled to take ownership of our success, we had already begun the next phase. Phase 2, we called it, a complete, scalable architecture that would make the first rollout look like a beta test. We leaked it subtly in meetings and private demos. The board was hooked. We got invited to the strategy retreat in Lake Geneva. That's where things began to tip. Board members don't drink cheap wine. They drink bourbon that smells like generational wealth. And when that bourbon starts flowing, so does candor. I sat across from a man named Charles Wellingham, a board member whose net worth could buy a small country. Ethan's lost a narrative. Charles said casually, swirling his drink. He's holding on, but not steering the ship anymore. I gave a polite, non-committal smile. He leaned in. That thing you and Maya built. It's a story now. That's when I knew. The king was dead. They just hadn't told him yet. Back in Chicago, the transition began in whispers. Ethan's calendar started filling with vague planning sessions. Amanda seemed more distracted. She still smiled in meetings, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then came the Friday morning email, the one that always signals blood in the water. Subject: Organizational Realignment Announcement. It landed at 8:03 a.m. By 8:07, people were texting. By 8:12, Ethan's name was trending on the internal messaging thread. He was being moved into a strategic advisory role, which, in corporate speak, is just a polite way to say, you've been dethroned. Please stop taking meetings like you still matter. Amanda? Still standing. For now. But she looked like someone whose weather app just showed a hurricane forming. She found me later that day. You knew this was coming, she said. No accusation. Just fact. Not officially, I replied, but you planned for it. I shrugged. Smart people always have a plan B. She looked away, jaw tightening. You've changed. So have you. There was more to say. 100 pages worth. But we stood there in silence, both of us quietly updating the mental versions we carried of each other. Later that week, the board made their announcement. The logistics innovation team would now report directly to the interim COO, Charles Wellingham himself, with Maya stepping into an executive position. And me, I was promoted, official title, executive technical strategist. But unofficially, I was the architect of the future they all wanted and on. And they had no idea what I still had left up my sleeve. Power doesn't arrive with a bang. It seeps in, quiet and unannounced, like water slowly flooding a basement. By the time anyone notices, the floorboards are already swelling. 2 weeks into my new role, I was living in that water. My name was on strategy decks. Executives deferred to me in meetings. Junior staff started copying me on emails unprompted, like I was some kind of oracle. Maya and I played our roles perfectly. She was a visible leader, eloquent, poised, charming in a way that made people underestimate her. I was the one behind the curtain, rewriting the company's nervous system one note at a time. Amanda kept her distance. She didn't know where I fit anymore, and that uncertainty showed in the way she walked past my office without making eye contact. Occasionally, she would mention me in meetings, like she was trying to recalibrate, to guess what version of me she was supposed to speak to now. I let her wonder. Meanwhile, Ethan clung to the fringes. His advisory role was ceremonial at best, the corporate equivalent of exile with a golden parachute. He still had his corner office, but I noticed the blinds were always closed now, a king in hiding. One day, Charles Wellingham stopped by my office. He knows, he said, not bothering to specify. I didn't look up from my laptop. Good. Charles chuckled. You planning to twist a knife, or just let him bleed out? Not yet. You're a patient man. No, just deliberate. He tapped twice on the doorframe and walked off. That night, Amanda sent me a message, not through work channels. A text, the first personal communication we'd had in almost a year. Can we talk? Somewhere outside the office? I stared at it for a full minute. Then I replied, 8 p.m., the place on Wabash. You know the one. She was already there when I arrived. Same coat, same nervous fidget with her necklace. But she didn't look up right away. I thought I'd never hear from you again, she said once I sat. You wouldn't have if you hadn't asked. She nodded slowly. You're different now. Sharper. Cold. I shrugged. I had to be. We sat in silence for a while. The kind of silence that feels like an unfinished argument stretching between two people. Was this all about revenge? She finally asked. I tilted my head. Do you think that's all I'm capable of? I don't know what you're capable of anymore. I sipped my drink. Good. That's how I prefer it. She looked hurt, genuinely. For a flash, I saw the woman I used to love. But then I remembered the voice on the stairs. Mandy. The laugh. The shut bedroom door. I made mistakes, she said. You did, I replied, and you made them with a man who thought no one was watching. She leaned in. And now, what do you want? That was the real question. What I wanted. Because it wasn't just to watch Ethan fall. That would have been too easy. Too small. I wanted to own the world he tried to rule. And I wanted Amanda to see it. Not because I hated her, but because I wanted her to understand what she gave up. What I want, I said slowly, is still forming. But when I know for sure, you'll be the first to feel it. She flinched. I paid for the drinks and walked out. The next morning, Maya called me. They're pushing for a full transition. They want you to step in as CTO. Charles is lobbying hard. What about Amanda? Still trying to find her footing. HR's whispering about a lateral move. Strategic redundancy. They're calling it. I said nothing. Maya waited a beat. You sure you want this to be personal? It stopped being personal the day she smiled and let him take everything. Now it's just precision. She didn't argue. By the end of that week, Amanda was officially repositioned. A title change. A team of one. A windowless office tucked next to the stairwell. She never said anything to me. She didn't have to. She knew the walls were closing in, and I hadn't even opened the next door yet. It was always going to come down to one room, one meeting, one moment. Not with Ethan, not with Amanda, with the board. Charles had set it up like he was teeing off a game of golf, casually, with quiet menace. We want to talk about the future, he'd said, but we both knew what it meant. The room would be full of suits and power and perfectly chilled water. And I was finally walking in as the man they listened to. It was on the 33rd floor. The blue room, glass walls, navy upholstery, skyline views designed to intimidate. I'd been there once years ago, delivering a quarterly report that nobody read. I'd worn an off-the-rack suit and prayed not to stutter. Now I walked in wearing tailored wool, no notes in hand, and silence trailing behind me like an entourage. Ethan was already seated. He looked smaller than I remembered. Still sharp, but frayed at the edges. The kind of man who'd fought to stay relevant long after the war was over. He didn't greet me, just stared. His eyes flicked to Charles, then back to me. Amanda sat to Ethan's right. Her face was unreadable, polished, professional, but her knuckles were white around her pen. Charles opened. Let's get to it. You've all seen the reports, the projections. There's no denying results. Our operation performance is hitting levels we haven't seen in over a decade. Murmurs of agreement. He turned to me. Would you walk us through your roadmap? I did. Concise. Focused. Every word calculated. Every pause deliberate. I didn't pitch. I explained. As if I were already in the role they were preparing to offer me. Then came the moment. Charles leaned forward, folding his hands. We're restructuring leadership. Ethan, we appreciate your years of service, but the company needs a new direction. We'd like to offer you a formal transition package, effective immediately. Silence. Ethan's jaw moved, but no words came. Amanda didn't look at him. She looked at me. I met her gaze. Not cold, not cruel, just inevitable. Ethan stood slowly. So this is how it ends? Charles didn't blink. No, Ethan, this is how it continues, without you. And just like that, the man who once took everything from me walked out, alone. Amanda remained. Charles turned to her next. We're evaluating department heads in light of the new structure. You'll be reassigned, but your long-term fit here is still under review. Amanda opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time, I saw her hesitate. Not perform, not deflect. Just hesitate. After the meeting, she caught me in the hallway. I suppose this is the part where you get your revenge, she said. No, I replied. That already happened. You just haven't realized it yet. She flinched. I leaned closer. This wasn't about you. Amanda, it never was. You were just collateral. He was the target. You just happened to be standing next to him when the floor gave out. She looked like she might say something, but instead, she turned and walked away. I should have felt triumph, but What I felt was relief. That night, Maya and I stood in her office, watching the lights of the city blink against the glass. "It's done," she said. "Not quite." She looked at me. "There's one more thing," I said. "One last door to close." She nodded. "You sure you want to open it?" "I don't want to," I said, "but I need to, because this wasn't just a takedown. It was a reckoning. And I wasn't done yet. It's funny what sticks with you. Not the betrayal. Not the boardroom victory. What stuck with me was a door, the one Amanda never locked. Our house, back when things still resembled a marriage, had a side entrance. Small, wooden, half hidden behind a row of boxwoods. She always used to forget to lock it. I reminded her constantly. Even got her one of those smart locks she could control from her phone. She never used it. I used to think it was carelessness. Now I wonder if it was something else. A quiet kind of defiance. A belief that no one would ever dare walk in. But someone did. 2 weeks after Ethan's removal, Amanda didn't return to work. Officially, it was a leave of absence. Unofficially, it was fallout. She'd been reassigned to a shadow department with no real authority. Her name no longer appeared on leadership briefings. Her photo disappeared from the company site. I hadn't spoken to her since the hallway, until the email. Subject, 1 hour. Please, I'll be at the old house. Just 1 hour. That's all I ask. It came from her personal account. No attachments. No tricks. I didn't answer. But I went. She was already inside when I arrived. Same side door. Still unlocked. The living room was dim, quiet. A few boxes stacked in the corner. A coat on the chair that used to be mine. She was in the kitchen, back to me, staring out the window. "Didn't expect you to come," she said. "Neither did I." She turned, eyes tired but clear. "I've lost everything." "No," I said. "You gave it away." We stood in silence for a long time, the kind that doesn't ask to be broken. "I loved him," she said finally. "I thought I did. But it wasn't about love. It was about orbiting something that made me feel important. And when he burned up an atmosphere..." She smiled sadly. "I forgot how cold space is." I almost laughed. It was the most honest thing she'd said in years. She walked toward me, slower than I remembered. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" "Yeah," I said. "I just didn't think I'd be the one holding the match." She stopped a few feet away. "Do you hate me?" I thought about it. Really thought. No. Hating you would mean I still wanted something from you. I don't. She nodded, then looked past me toward the hallway. "I haven't been in the bedroom since he left. It feels hollow, like even the walls know what happened." I looked around. Everything familiar, and yet none of it mine anymore. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "My resignation. From the company. From this house. From you." I took it. "Read it." A simple note. No dramatics. Just her signature. "I figured," she added, "if you could close the last door, I'd leave it open for you." The irony didn't escape me. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. I left through the same side door she never locked. This time, I locked it behind me.